Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon 2, or Dungeon de wo Matomaru no wa Mishikateru Daro ka 2. I probably said it wrong, but let's roll with it. Alright, so, what is this is, as you know, it's the second season of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, so what's the story of this season? This season follows a character named Makoto learning that one of her long lost friends is in the city, I'm gonna call it the land of lust or whatever, run by this goddess called Ishtar, and goes in there to try to find her. And Belle and the crew, Belle and Lily and Welf all go to check it out and wind up getting into some situations. That happens mid-season, but it is the main plot of this season, as it's the majority of the episodes, and that's where things kind of go from there. A lot of stuff ensues, and yeah, this was a terrible description, but again, let's just roll with it. So, yeah. So, with some spoiler-free thoughts, weirdly enough, this season was way better than I remember. Like, this season was surprisingly really good. Like, I do not remember it being this good. I remember watching season 2 the first 2 times, and I thought, it's all right. I think I enjoyed season 1 more. But now that I've watched, after having watched season 1 recently and now rewatched season 2, I had a really good time. Like, I was amazed how much I really enjoyed this and how much I just enjoyed the characters. Like, I normally don't compliment action in shows, but the action in this one was very entertaining. And the characters were fun. I laughed a lot of the really funny moments, and overall, I just had such a great time. Minus the last 2 episodes, but we can get into that in the spoiler section, because for the most part, I love this season. Because there's like this beginning storyline that takes the first 4 episodes, then the next 6 or so take over the rest of the season, and then there's the last 2 episodes, which just kind of do their own thing. But overall, I just had such a great time with this anime. The characters were likable. I don't feel like anyone really over pushed their boundaries except Hestia, who, again, we can go into the spoiler section about that. And I just had such a great time. I did not remember having such a great time before, so I'm so happy how much I enjoyed this show's second season. Like, I did not remember season 2 being as fun as it is. The first 2 storylines that they cover in this season are great. I love them so much. They're probably some of my favorite stories, and it's so weird because I remember first thinking the second story being not that great. So to be able to enjoy it as much as I do now, it's weird, but I'm all for it. And yeah, there's a lot of new characters that are also introduced in this season, as well as more characters are kind of dived in upon. Like, we get to know a little more about Lily and who she is as a character, as well as a little more about Makoto, and as well as this new character called Haruhime, and a few other things that we kind of get a glimpse into who they are as characters, and I really like that. It gives us a lot more of an idea of who these characters are and what their stories are, and I really like that. And yeah, I still think Belle is one of my favorite protagonists, and this season shows that he's just so much fun to watch. I love him as a character. It's so weird because when I've read the light novels, he feels like a completely different character than he is in the anime, so it's weird still watching it, but I do enjoy Belle in the anime a lot, and he's still one of my favorite protagonists. Not my favorite, but one of my favorites. And yeah, I can't really say much else without spoiling the actual season itself, so we're gonna hop into the spoiler section of this review now. So here's a timestamp to when the conclusion of this video is going to happen. If you have seen Danmachi Season 2, I'd recommend sticking around to hear what I have to say, but if you have not watched it, like if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend skipping to the end so you don't get any spoilers. But yeah, that's all I had to say, so let's just hop into the spoiler section after we count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so when I met before, where I said the only one who really overpushed their boundaries as well as wasn't as great of a character was Hestia, the reason behind I say that is because in the last 2 episodes of this season, there's this little event that drags Aiz, Belle, and Hestia off to a little village in the mountains where we get an idea of Aiz's past, where she looks at a dragon scale and gets him from like this dangerous mythical creature or something called the Black Dragon. where it kind of gives us an idea of who she is as a character, which is really interesting. But then we just cut back to Hestia, who is just really pushing her luck with everything, where it's a whole story arc where Hestia first tries to ask Belle, hypothetically, if a goddess confessed to him, if he would accept her love, and he just simply states, no, I refuse. I don't think that I would, because gods are beyond us. Which is a perfectly reasonable answer for his thought process. It's still not the full, perfect way to think about it, but he answered honestly. He just gave an opinion she asked for, to which she runs out and ends up getting kidnapped, and thus leads to him, it just leads to eventually Belle, Eyes, and Hestia getting put into that village, which, honestly, I still don't know how I feel about how the characters reacted, because after that happened, after she ran away, all the other characters are all to Belle, oh yeah, Belle, you're in the wrong. You're definitely in the wrong for this because of your thought process. You should try to understand her side better. And I just felt bad for Belle because he was so lost on what was going on, which I get it. That he was technically in the wrong for not fully understanding her feelings, but at the same time, the fact that they kind of had to berate Belle about it, it didn't sit well with me. And it's just the whole story arc feels like it's trying to lean Belle towards being interested in Hestia, which, as someone who really is rooting for Belle and Ice to get together, I didn't really like that. But, it's just how it is. But overall, just the whole storyline just kept trying to push Hestia onto Belle in a way where, I don't know, just everything felt like it was trying to make Belle fall for Hestia. It may not have been the intent, but that's just kind of what I got from that regard. There were still a few really good moments in that story, such as the Hestia kind of giving one final message from another goddess to this old man who's dying, which was it was a pretty nice scene. And overall, I didn't hate that storyline. It was just the weakest out of the storylines, and reminds me of why I'm just not that big of a fan of Hestia as a character. And it's one which is kind of ironic considering how many people like Hestia. But I don't know, I've just never really been a fan of her, so I just didn't care. Still though, thankfully, the rest of the storylines aren't too focused on her, such as the story with Haruhime, which was very much focused on Belle and Makoto, which I really, really liked. I thought Haruhime wanting to have a hero to save her but couldn't because she thought she was a prostitute and had to not get to, how she couldn't wish for that stuff. I thought it was really interesting, especially with how Belle wanted to help her, but at the same time didn't want to risk endangering his own familia by going to war with the Ishtar familia. And it's just this constant contemplation where we're reminded time and time again that Belle is still young and can't just go off and do whatever he wants. He's still trying to grow and he's still trying to learn, especially since in this season alone, he learns just how weak he is compared to other people. He's constantly faced with issues where he's not as strong. Now, it's not to say he's not entirely strong. In the first storyline of this season, there's this giant war game where Apollo, another god, really wants Belle. So he challenges Hestia to a war game for Belle. And it's a storyline where they recruited a lot of strong people, which by recruit, I mean they just got the main crew along with Ryu the elf, and they just kind of fought from there. Which, honestly, that, as weird as it sounds, that was actually my favorite storyline in the entire season. I had such a great time just seeing Belle and the others instantly demolish Apollo's forces in the war game, and it was just such an entertaining situation that, honestly, the rest of the season kind of pales in comparison just because I just enjoyed seeing the crew easily demolish the enemy. But the rest of the season was still really good. Other than those last two episodes, which kind of just ended things on a rather mediocre note, the rest of the season is so enjoyable. I remember, as I mentioned earlier, not really liking the storyline with Haruhime and the, you could just call it the entertainment district. I remember it being so mediocre, and yet upon the rewatch, I just had such an amazing time. I was rooting for Belle the whole time, even though I already knew how it was going to end. It was just such a thrill. It just astounds me. Why didn't I like this season as much as I did before? And it goes to show that sometimes you gotta give shows more watches, a bunch of rewatches before you start to think, this is actually pretty good. And yeah, just everything about this season improved so much from the first season. The animation improved a lot. The story felt more coherent instead of how it felt in the first season where they were just flipping through storyline after storyline. covering as many volumes as I could in one season. This season felt a lot more like connected and felt less forced up with the story. It was very entertaining, and I really like this season. I'm just trying to say that. This is way better than season 1, which is strange considering that's not how I used to feel. Like, I remember back when I first watched this, I reviewed it in the order of I liked season 1 the best, then season 3, then season 2, but now I'm kind of switching it around where I think I like season 2 the best. Although I haven't rewatched season 3 yet, so I don't know if I'll love it again, and I still haven't watched season 4. But yeah, so yeah, I don't got much else to say other than the fact that I just thought everything was an absolute blast, and I don't regret sitting down and rewatching the second season any more than the first, because it was such a good time. If it was even better than I expected. So yeah, we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? It's way better than I remember. It was just such a great time. I loved all the characters in this for the most part, except the villains, because, you know, they're meant to be kind of hated. But as main characters go, I really enjoyed the cast in this one, and it was a lot more fun, and just such a great time. And that's why I am probably going to, if not definitely going to, not probably, am going to give this season of Danmachi a 9 out of 10. It was so much better than I remembered. Such a great time. And I just can't get enough of this series. I love it so much. With the very few flaws it has, I love this season a lot. It just had so much charm to it, and that's why I give it the rating I do. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I always welcome new anime fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!